Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It, where we explore the intricate landscape of mental health, well-being, and everyday life. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
Join us as we dive into insightful conversations, expert perspectives, and personal stories that shed light on the various dimensions of mental wellness. Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or deeper understanding of the human mind, this podcast is your safe space to engage, learn, and navigate the journey to a happier, healthier self. So today we are going to be talking about the topic of making things official. So this topic was kind of brought upon by a conversation I was having with a coworker about,
AKA the Risa Tisa.
Oh no, that was part of it, but the conversation I was having with my coworker was she was talking to a guy, and they were talking to each other, but they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. And so you're going through all the different things of being boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're not boyfriend and girlfriend. So then the conversation.
Wait. Take it back. You said they were dating, but they what? They weren't official.
They weren't officially boyfriend and girlfriend.
So they was just spending time together.
Pretty much.
They were friends.
They were friends. Oh. And so for me, the conversation that I had with her was, if I'm getting, hypothetically, if you and I are dating, and I'm getting all the benefits of us being in a committed monogamous relationship, such as you cooking for me, you cleaning for me, there's intercourse that is occurring. What benefit is there for me to actually make it official at that point?
Well, I'm going to just have you add me to the will, because at that point you told me that you want to be together forever. So just add me to the will, and then we can call it even.
So, I mean, that's, for me, I felt like it was...
So people be talking, I don't like titles. You like my cooking? You like my sexing? You like my everything else? My ironing?
Why am I so childish? You said you like my sexing.
My intercoursing? What? Does that clean it up for you?
Yeah.
You like that, but you don't want the title? What's the title gonna do? Because I just had this session with a client, and I was just like, no, that's childish. That a person, you go to job every day, and on your taxes, you have a title.
Mm-hmm.
Because they ask you, what's your job title? And they ask you your relationship title, too. It's a couple titles on your taxes. So you can give a title to Uncle Sam, but you can't give a title to the person that you laying down with at night. At this point, maybe the title I need to give you is spy or assassin, because what the heck are you hiding?
Exactly. I mean,
you hiding something, and I want to know what it is.
For me, I think that, and you and I have had this conversation before about intentionality. Mm-hmm. I'm a person that does things with intentionality. The reason why I do things with intentionality is because, one, it sets the precedent of what the other person can expect from me and what I'm expecting from them. When we're just moving loosey-goosey, that's how people's expectations, get shattered. People get disappointed. Their feelings is hurt because we have not outlined, there's not a mutual understanding from both parties of what we are expecting from one another.
So take it back to your story about these young lovers, if you will. So the young lady was comfortable with just going out on all of these days. She had a lot of time on her hands. I don't know nobody in their 30s that got that much time on their hands, and it's not going nowhere.
Right, to be wasting your time, your energy. It's a lot.
Just time. I ain't even talking about money and energy. I go to work, like most of us work, right? Mm-hmm. That are in our late 20s, early 30s, and just upward. You work a job at least 8 to 9 hours a day, right? So from 8 a.m. till about 5 or 6 p.m., my time belongs to somebody else. And then you're talking about at between 7 and 10 p.m., you want me to spend time with you. That don't mean, I gotta clean my house. I gotta take my animal out, because I got dogs, so I gotta take my animal out. I possibly gotta do some type of cooking so I have lunch the next day, because who's still buying lunch every day at work? No, that's crazy. So I gotta cook a little food because if we don't go out every night, and if I don't have leftovers, then I gotta cook something. So I gotta come home and cook. I gotta do laundry. I gotta do hair because I'm a black woman with natural hair. I gotta do my hair. I gotta get my clothes ready for the next day. Boy, and the least you can do is say, hey, I want to occupy your space only. First of all, women do it backwards. Let me just put y'all on that. If you're only dating one person, you're doing it wrong. Because everybody needs to know that they're optional until they've proven that they're the choice.
Right.
If you don't want to be the choice, that's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna just put you in a queue. And then when your number comes up again in the queue, then we'll go. We'll go on a date again. But you've told me that you don't want to be anything less than a placeholder, so I'm gonna keep you in placeholder status. You're gonna hold the place of the person who I desire to be there long term. And if another person comes up and their number just keeps coming up in the queue quicker, well, my guy, you just lost out because you was just trying to be a placeholder. I'm not looking for a placeholder. I'm looking for a spouse, a partner, a boyfriend, whatever. I'm looking for that. So if that's all you desire to be is a placeholder, well, you can hold that place. We can come to my house and help me fold my clothes. Right. You want to help me wash my hair? Because you want my time, but I have things to do with my time. I'm busy. No, I'm not just going to keep putting on a dress for you to take me out to some rinky restaurant that I could take myself to or go paint. I'd rather do that with my girls because they're better painters anyway if you're not like into that sort of thing. Like, you want to come and get my nails done with me? Let's come and get my nails done. And actually, factually, I have done that with guys. I have said, if you want to spend time with me, come over here while I do my laundry. Here, let's learn how to do hair. I'll learn how to cut your hair. You can learn how to flat iron mine. Because if you want to spend time with me, you want to spend time with me doing the things I actually do. I don't actually go out to dinner every night.
Well, so, most people don't have.
That was her bad.
Vote. Yeah, most people don't have time to vote to do that nightly, and you're not getting any type of commitment, right?
Just needed to let that boy know he was an option.
Right.
You're an option. You're my Tuesday boy.
So
either that or potentially recognize that she was the option.
Right. But see,
she was his Tuesday girl.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is two people who in their own time are trying to come together eventually and see about a commitment, right? But both of them have their own.
They wasn't trying to come eventually, Khalil. They was doing exactly what they wanted to do. She just got caught up in the. She got loved bomb and was like, "Oh my God, she does those things to me, and I love it." Yeah, and she should have found somebody else to do them things to her.
But see, this is what I'm talking about. Both of these people have different timeline expectations, right? And we talked about it earlier on the standards podcast we did. There should be a certain level of standards. If I'm spending this much time with you and this much energy with you, and I'm devoting my emotions to you, right? We need to make it an official thing, because why would I waste all this time with you? So the young lady who refused to have that sit down and conversation with that man is not allowing him to see that she has any standards. So at that time, I guess he is open and willing to do what he wants to do with your time.
Well, go ahead.
This is a plug for the Sprinkle Lady. I don't know if y'all saw the Sprinkle Lady on TikTok. If y'all have not seen the Sprinkle Lady,
I don't think I've seen it.
Y'all gotta go watch her. She is a villain for men. Okay, she's definitely on Cruella time. And so, while I don't think that you should use people, I don't agree with using people, right? But I do believe in all parties getting a return on their investment. Like, if I'm investing this, it's a fair exchange. Like, I'm giving you this, I get this in return, right? If you feel like the person, one, know how much you're willing to risk. Every relationship is a risk. My dad said that he would say, you want to settle for something, you got to choose your heart, right?
Right.
Everybody settles in a marriage, in a relationship, but you might settle for $1 million home. That's still a settle. I'm settling for $1 million home because you have a $2 million home. Okay, so you're settling. This is where I'm settling on. If you are going, know how much you're wanting to risk going in. You know what? It's not about I'm giving this person 3 dates. After 3 months, if I don't see the potential of us going any forward, I have to be willing to dead the relationship. A lot of times, especially, and I'm not just speak for women, a lot of times women will be like, well, I'm going to just go into this and see where it goes. You can't afford that risk, baby girl. You just can't. You got to say, you know what? Like I tell my clients, it's not about what the other person wants. What in the heck do you want?
Right.
What do you want out of a relationship? Well, I don't know what they want. It doesn't matter what they want. If what you want does not align to what they're giving you, then leave.
True.
Well, I mean, so to that point, though, I think that what you're speaking to is having open and honest communication from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because again, I can't know what you're expecting from me if you don't communicate it to me. That's number one. And then number two, you know, because you've spoken about this before, of outlining what type of game we're playing from the very beginning. That way I know how to move and how to operate in that space.
Be honest.
I think that for most of us, we have a romanticized idea of the other person that we get to the point to where we overlook. And like we were talking about Risa Tisa before we started recording, she alluded to that in the fact that she saw all the United Nations of red flags and she just ignored them. And so for some of us, we do that. We will recognize that certain things, that there's a yellow light. We're coming up on an intersection. The yellow light is in the queue. And we will, instead of slowing down, because that's what it means. Yellow means slow down because it's about to turn red. We punch it and try to blow through the red light.
It means clear the intersection.
Nah, it means slow down.
Yellow means yield. What school did y'all go to? Yellow means yield.
It means slow down.
Listen.
I live
in Baltimore, okay? That's where I used to drive down here in Atlanta, where folk just do whatever. If the light could be red, they still gonna go. If they want to.
Oh yeah.
If they want to do that light, they're just gonna take a little pause or not and go.
Yield for a hot second.
They're gonna look to see if you coming too quickly before they go.
Well, speaking on what RJ's talking about, the caution, right? The caution signs are there. You can see that in a relationship. We're all grown. We've all had relationships where either we were playing or the other person's playing, right? But you got to be absolutely blind if you're not seeing these red flags. You know what I mean? And people do romanticize relationships. We do that. We make an ideal person out of them. Listen. People know what's going on. I don't believe that people are absolutely.
Guys, wait a minute.
Track record. You see how they act. You see the pattern of behavior.
Wait a minute.
I'm jumping
I
in.
just want to be the advocate, okay? I want to advocate for
some people,
the blind Bettys. Some people have the spirit of a raging bull, right? The red is enticing, right? And they just feel like, I could just plow through it. I can
love the person enough and change them.
Love them enough. I could plow through the nonsense because I am so strong-willed that they will never succumb or overtake me. That's what they think. It has to be.
But the thing, like I tell people this, I tell people like that who think that. Number one, if you feel like you personally can change someone else, it's called manipulation.
Yes.
A person only changes when they want to change. That's number one.
So you meet the right person.
That exactly. A person only wants to change when they're ready to change. There's no amount of polishing a turd and rubbing on is going to turn into a gold nugget. It's still, no matter how much you rub and rub on and polish it, it's still going to be a piece of shit. So at the end of the day, you, like you said, you have to recognize, am I willing to settle for this turd or do I want a gold nugget? I can't have both. There's no amount of me rubbing and loving on something that's going to turn it into something else. But where we get ourselves in trouble is, like I had the same conversation with the same young lady where you're sitting here complaining about how he is, but I'm like, sis, he always been like that.
Right.
Now,
most of us, me included, and I tell people this, when you use me as an example, I am who I am. I'm not going to be nobody any different from the very beginning all the way to the very end. So who I am is who I am. And I'm not saying that I am somebody that's just super disrespectful, but most of us, the signs are there, but you chose to ignore them. So when you are sitting here communicating to a person and they're not receiving what you're telling them, and then months later you're still upset and you're still unhappy and these are issues you're still going through, it's like at some point in time we have to take some accountability and say, was this person like this when you first started meeting them, when you first got to know them? And if the answer is yes, then whose fault is it that we're still in this spot right now?
Right.
Well, sometimes I think it could, and this is still me, definitely in my Cruella bag. I think that if you have a monster of a person, you can, instead of trying to beat them, join them. I think it's just about, if you know this person is just awful, right? Just expect awfulness from them. And if you're okay with that, then say, oh, they're just awful. And I mean, just talk about it as candidly as possible. I think I was dating someone, and no, I was entangled. And
You were entangled. That's what we going with. You were entangled.
Entangled.
Okay.
It was stupid, but I did it anyway. And the person was behaving very idiotically. And I said, you're an idiot. My parents heard me. They were like, Unique, that was all. I said, they are an idiot. Like, they're really stupid. And they were like, but you're just saying it. I was like, because they are. And they know that they're stupid. I said, but I've just accepted that that's who you are. So I don't expect to have intelligent conversations with you because you can't handle that. You're an idiot. So I stopped having those type of conversations, and I just used their money. They were pissed, but I said, I'll just use your money because I need it. You're going to be dumb enough to give it. So there's that.
Fair exchange ain't no robbery.
It's not. I mean, I think that it goes back to the conversation like we had like a while ago about when you first sit down and you're first getting to know somebody, there should be an opening salvo of conversations. Me and Anna talked about this, as a matter of fact, yesterday. But there are certain conversations I'm having with somebody when we first meet, when we go on a first date. And the reason why is because I want to establish if we have shared vision and shared purpose, shared values. Because that's going to determine if there's going to be a second, a third, a fourth date. If this is going to be somebody that is just going to be for all points and purposes recreational use only, or is this going to be somebody that is going to be somebody I can build with, somebody that I can cultivate with and grow with?
It's important to know what a person's place is. I don't see the problem in that, and maybe that just makes me an awful person, but I've had relationships that were purely just because we enjoyed spending time together. Like, I've had a companion in my adult life and they were of the opposite sex. We've never had any type of sexual relations, but we did all of the couple things together, just we weren't a couple. And it was clear. No, everyone thought that we were a couple, but we did couple things. We just didn't like engage in anything sexual. But it was just like, if I wanted to go out on a date, this person took me out on a date. If I wanted to come over and spend time at home and we buy each other food and we just eat, we just did it. And then I had friends who, I don't know if I call them friends, but I had partners who I did things with. And
you were entangled with?
No, I wasn't an entanglement. That was very much so a choice. And it was just what it was. We just said, I don't desire to be in a relationship with you. I didn't expect that from them. There was no need for conversation or pleasantries. We just did what we had to do. Sometimes I would stay, sometimes I would go home.
Right.
Yeah, but it was clear. I don't think that it was something where it was ever murky in that manner. Then I had people who they were a little confused, and I said, well, I don't see you that way. I just don't. I think that you're a great person. And I think that a different person would be better suited to be in a relationship with you, like you're looking for, that I am. I just don't know that I'm that person. I enjoy spending time with you, quality time with you. I think we have fun together. But I don't want to be anything more. I'm not in a headspace to be in a committed relationship with you. And I know that from the conversations that we have, I know that we don't want the same things long term. So no, I don't want to engage in that space with you. And I had some of these relationships simultaneously. It wasn't like I had them one at a time. No, I just had these different types of dynamics with men. And it's just like, I don't see the problem with that. I think, like I said, having one person when you're trying to figure things out, I think people move to the exclusive stage too quickly. I figure it out first. See what you want. If this person checks the boxes, be exclusive with them. If they don't, leave yourself open. This is why you shouldn't just jump into bed with everybody, but leave yourself open to try to figure a couple things out. Be like, no, I really like going to dinner with this person. They have exquisite taste in like anytime I go with them, they're foodies, so they have different food preferences, and I just really like learning about different food experiences. Some men, if you're into drinking, some men are very good knowing like different pairings with like alcohols and stuff like that. Hey, some guys are just fun. Let's just be real. I don't know if you ever spend time with a guy, and I'm not saying, you have to date him if it's man to man, whatever. If you spend time with like a homeboy, just like a guy, guys do some pretty fun things. And so he might take you to a game. He might, y'all might be playing a video. I'm not playing a video game, but just watching a man in his space is just a good time. So you might find a guy who you figure out, you know what, after spending a couple of dates with this person, doing what they like to do, they're just I just think they're a cool person. They're a friend. I'm probably never going to date them more seriously than this, but they're a cool person. What I'm saying is get to know people in a space that is less about that lifelong commitment, and to really spend time getting to know people for just who the heck they are.
Right.
If I
So you're
got to
saying
go
like
out,
in a less restrictive way.
right,
It's not just dating. This is, hey, we're hanging out and having a good time.
right. If
Right.
I was going to date Khalil, let's just say I wanted to date Khalil and RJ at the same time, because dating, you could do that.
Right. You're just dating.
For
You're hanging out.
Khalil, Khalil, we might be going volunteering. We're going to go to, look at some
Soup kitchen.
museums and stuff like that. Right. We're going to maybe hit the gym. For RJ, I might have to get up at 5 a.m. I might have to catch him at 5 a.m., go for a run. I might also have to go to like Comic-Con or like some painting classes.
Local comic shop where he be at.
Right. I might have to go to the local comic shop, but I could do both of those things. Right. Both of those things simultaneously. And for them, if they were dating me, they might be like, okay, bet. Hell, they could do a whole myriad of things. But we might go to a ballroom dancing class, right? We might go salsa dancing because I'm into that sort of thing. But what I'm saying is I'm not confining either of them to this space of this is my man, this is my person. No, this is a person that I am choosing to spend time with, that I am getting to know. If we just so align that our paths keep crossing, hey, let's really explore this a little bit more. Why you keep crossing paths? Why you keep being on my square? You trying to be with me or something?
Right. So this is where I'm getting at with this whole thing, right? Because you did a good job of breaking it down, how women do have these options of dating men and kind of not making everything exclusive after a month or two, but really just dating and trying to find people, find out who people really are. And so when I was listening to the actual real show, right, Who the F Did I Marry, and I start watching these episodes, kind of my concept is people play this game, like all of a sudden the switch up happens and these people were transformers. But when we're watching the actual show of the real show on TV, where it comes from, right, you see behavior patterns.
You do.
And you invested all this time, and like in a lot of the episodes, you start to see people just get glued to these people so quick, and even their folks jump in there, right? So you got family members in there, you got best friends in there, and they're like all of a sudden after like 4 or 5 months, like they were like, "This is my person." Like, I'm sorry, I know I'm a little bit different, right? But I never thought I met my person, right, that quickly. I've met some people I could gel with. We had some good conversations, or like I could see like, hey, you know what? We really fit together on a friendship level. But to know if that person was my person or soulmate or something, that's what you see in these things. And these people just jump into it after 3 or 4 months. And so for me, it's like, oh, all of a sudden you're saying these people switched up. No, you just were having this ideal relationship in your mind and you missed the caution. And some of y'all actually saw it and kept going, because you see that in the little show. They just kept going. They blew through the red lights, like you guys were saying. So to me, it's like all of a sudden when you act like this person, all of a sudden they were crazy. No, they were crazy since you met them.
And that's the conversation I have with people when I hear people talk about, oh, my ex-boyfriend was crazy, or my ex-girlfriend was crazy, or this, that, and the third. And it's like, come on, like we gotta be adults. Let's keep it a buck. We gotta be adults. The signs were there. You recognize that certain things were there. And so when you are, the problem with a lot of us is we want the relations without the relationship. We want to get right to the good parts. You know, when I say the good parts, we know what the good parts are. We want to get right to the good parts.
Animal
without taking, you know, we want to be out here doing the grown up.
No, some people just like they wanted the good part from them is the title, is the thing of I have
a boyfriend or I have a girl,
and that's where like for me, that's where, like I said before, it takes getting, you know, like I said, moving with intentionality and doing things the right way. Now, the right way to me, just me personally, you know, is the courtship phase. Us getting a chance to get to know each other outside of distractions, outside of other people, outside of other opinions. You and I being able to get to know who we are away from everyone else. Where we can sit down and have conversations and just spend quality time together. Effectively communicate, learn things about one another.
Trying to hold somebody's hand and rub some booty. That's what it is.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not trying to do any of those things. At least at the very beginning. At least, you know,
I want to hold your hand and rub your booty, girl. That's it.
All at the same time.
At least not at the very beginning. But I mean,
I just want to hold your hand.
I mean, so I ain't gonna hold you. That is one of my love languages of, you know, of physical touch. But at the end of the day, like for me, you know, I say this and I tell people this all the time, you know, and this is where women and men were different. For us as men, it's looked at differently for us to be knocking down everything. If you got a pulse and you got the pieces, we try to knock you down. You the man because you done knocked down that one, her sister, her mama, her cousin too. You knocking them down, you the man. We fist bumping, we high fiving, we doing all of that.
These days, whereas down, everybody, men too. Everybody.
And so whereas with women, you get that reputation for doing that. Now you for the streets, you all these different names. And so
first and foremost, stop telling people all your business. I've talked about security clearances, and
we live in a day and age.
It's not the time to go tell all your business.
We live in a day and age where everybody records everything, everybody shares everything, everybody puts everything out there on social media.
That's why I think learning how to mind your business is imperative. And by minding your business, I mean literally taking ownership of your business and just keeping it as your business.
Yeah.
Like the situation I explained, all these situations happened right before I got married. Were the people knowledgeable that I was dating other people? 100% yes. Did they know names? No. Are there any pictures on my socials? No. And I went on lots of dates. I was always outside. Okay? I had dates for everything.
We call you.
I was dating. Khalil. Right. That's the thing. I was dating. I was just dating. But I didn't post anybody because I felt like that was reserved for someone that I was in a committed relationship. This was a person that I wanted to be viewed as my partner. So when I met my husband, it was a while before I posted him, and people saw him. They're like, "Are you dating this person too?" I was just like, "Yes, we are dating. I am more exclusive with this guy. Like I'm looking to be more exclusive." So then when I was like, I kind of like this man. I'm gonna keep him around. I think I posted him on a story or something. People were like, where did he come from? They didn't know I had been talking to him for a while. But when I wanted to dissolve my other relationships, I was honest. I wasn't secretive about it. I told him, hey, listen. Well, I dissolved them before I met my husband, but I was just like, look, I'm looking for something a bit more serious. And I don't know that I don't think that our relationship is that. I only had one guy who was just like, why?
He was devastated.
What?
He didn't know what to
What do
do.
you mean?
What you
What
mean?
do you mean? And I said, because we don't want the same things. How do you know that, Unique? I was like, because we've had the same conversation. We've been dating for a year now, and there's no progression. Like, we're at the same place we were a year ago, and I said we're both grown enough that I don't have to say, hey, let's put a title on it, make me your girlfriend. If you wanted to, sir, you would have, and it's evidence that that's not what you have in mind. And I have communicated that clearly. I didn't throw hints. I communicated it clearly, and I let you know that until you were serious, I would be dating other people.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't.
Exactly.
You thought that,
and they didn't say anything about that, right?
Right. You thought that meant, okay, she'll just get tired of dealing with all those other people and I'll just hang out until she's ready to solely deal with me. No, just like I told my husband, I will not slip into being anyone's girlfriend. If you want me to be that, you will ask. 7 days later, my husband asked me to be his lady.
So Unique, I want you to understand that there's people out there that are confused about how you set that up, right? So even though you were dating, you were still letting the people you dated know what you were looking for. And if they didn't follow through and say, hey, well, I'm looking for this as well, guess what? They could not be exclusive. That's what I want people to understand with this. So there's no possible way I can get set up. And who the fuck did I marry? Because how would I not know this person? We've had conversation. We've talked. We need to be on the same page. I don't see how people can all of a sudden just be like,
we discussed future goals, what you hope to obtain, all of these different things, and that's where it goes back to like what I was saying earlier about shared purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at the culmination of a relationship matriculating into a marriage, right, there's some shared purpose, there's some unity, there is some, solidification of what we are overall hoping to accomplish as a union. And so when you look at the relationship as a test drive for the marriage, that is what should be going on, where you guys are discussing these things, where because me and my sister were talking about this. As a matter of fact, we were talking about it day before yesterday.
I told you, I know you better talk about that, but I'm gonna counter your argument on why it's not a test drive for the marriage. But go ahead.
Why is it not?
Go ahead. What you and your sister were talking
about. What we were talking about was, like, she is a child, and she was just like, hey, like, for women, saying, hey, I got a kid on the very first date, you can see certain men, they feel some type of way about it. I said, so for me, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'd rather know on the very first date that you have a child than you surprise me 6 months later that you got a child.
Right.
So for me, leading with, hey, I have one kid, but I want to have more. Yeah, that might be a little bit much. But
why?
That's a conversation. I mean, no, not in your 30s, but what I'm saying is this right here, right? So for me, the conversation was, there are certain conversations that I'm having on the first date. Do you have any kids? Yes or no. Do you plan on having any kids if you don't have any kids? Yes or no. The reason you're asking these questions, because like I was telling my sister, the reason you want to ask these questions is because, again, if your goal is to have more kids and this person doesn't want to have any more kids,
right?
You get what I'm saying? You guys are going to be at an impasse at some point in time later on down the relationship. Now, people's ideas and thoughts may change as they matriculate in the relationship. They may go from not wanting kids to wanting kids.
Don't count on it.
But that's slim to none. But when you're having these honest conversations at the very beginning, a person is telling you what they're going for and what they're not going for. Now, some people will put a facade on and will be wearing a mask, and they'll be pretending that they're one way when they're actually not.
Yeah,
but that is where you circle back to those questions again. You may ask them, reframe the question and ask it again in a different way to see if you're getting their honest answer. Because that's what I'll do. I'll ask you something one way, and then maybe a couple months later, we still talking. I'll rephrase the question, ask you again in a random conversation, just to see if you're gonna give me the same answer.
I'm gonna tell you this. I think before having to play those mind games. No, it's not about setting people up. I think communicating a person's values. When you ask the person what their values are early on, right, and see how their values are actualized, then you'll know kind of what the person is. If the person says, I value family, but they never spend any time with family, they're always working, they're always doing other things, and you just You go to their house, you don't see no pictures of nobody. They don't
Contradiction.
value family.
No, they don't.
That's not a part of their value system. They may have now loyalty might be their value system.
Mm-hmm.
That might be number one. And because if their family call them, they might drop everything. It's like, oh, I gotta ride out. So it's not family that's high on their values. It might be loyalty, and that's still a good quality.
Yeah.
You just gotta ask yourself, is family high on yours, and what does that look like when it's actualized for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's actualized differently. That's actualized in having family time. Like we're going to be at family events together.
Right.
I'm going to call them. I talk to my mom at least 2 or 3 times a week via text or actual phone calls. Like I talk to my parents like they're my homies. Okay. If you met my parents, you'd understand why. But they are the homies. And so I talk to them.
Right.
But for someone else, that might not be high on their list. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. I just have to see, how does that work with me? Is that something that I'm going to want? If that's a high on my value list in my relationship, do you know how to give that to me? Or can you respect that value, that value placement for me? And am I able to respect yours? Right? Loyalty might say, I'm going to be in this committed partnership with you, but it may be something I have to learn to work at as being a present parent, right? If we want to have kids together, if family's not high on their list, look, I'm always going to be home. You ain't never gonna have to worry about me cheating or nothing like that. But I'm a workaholic. I'm a work. You and them kids gonna have whatever y'all need.
Right.
But I'm not picking up. I'm not coming to no games. And so, but that could be worked through. That could say, okay, because my value system is family, are you able to see that that's important to me? And how do you plan to meet that?
Right.
Well, I can come to some games, but not all games. Okay. I can give you one holiday a year with your family.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't coming to all that stuff. I don't get down like that. But you can have Thanksgiving one year and Christmas the next year.
Right.
Hey, I think that sometimes, because I don't want to communicate, it has to be all of us have to have the same values.
Values for everything.
No,
exactly.
Some values could be complementary. I don't think that they have to be the same, but I do think that your values need to be complementary to each other. Going into why I say your relationship is not a tester for your marriage.
I want to know why. Explain.
I know, I'm about to tell you why, Khalil.
Like test drive, but are we test driving? Look, are we test driving a Maserati? Are we test driving Acura? Are we test driving an old 1987 beat up jalopy? I mean, what type of car are we test driving?
The marriages are those cars. What you are doing in a relationship is preparing your finances to go to the car dealership and get the car.
Wow. Oh. Ooh. Wait. So you're saying, because I know before I go buy a car, I need to make sure my credit is up to snuff.
You need to have a permit. You need to have a driver's license so that you can get a car, and then make sure that you have the financial means to sustain owning a vehicle. That's what dating is. It is the preparation to make sure that I have the fortitude within myself to sustain this relationship for years to come. Hopefully, it's for the rest of your life, right? If you can find a partner to do it with for forever, I think that that's beautiful, right? But that comes with the character development to make sure you're going to be able to sustain that for the long haul. And when people think of a marriage as just a piece of paper or just a title, then you do not possess the fortitude and sustainability to have a long-term relationship with anyone.
Because you, I mean, and I tell people that
it was a test drive. Well, this one didn't work, so I'm gonna jump into another car. I didn't like the way that car drove. Because it's you.
And that's the thing. Like I tell people, like when it comes to marriages, you know, a marriage is not something that you should enter into lightly. Like in today's society, we've made it into a meme, a joke, an internet stunt where we go get married and then we're divorced 30 days later or 2 years later. And the thing is, like I tell people, anything that I put my name to, anything that I take vows that I take vows for in front of God, in front of my family, I take that seriously. Right. So for me, that's where, you know, like Unique and I had talked about, like doing things with an intention, doing things with a purpose. Understanding that if we are talking and we are exclusively in a relationship, and this is where because for me, as the man, I feel like as the man, I should be leading that conversation. What are we doing?
What
are we just recreational use only? We just hanging out?
That's what I'm saying. I think that question needs to be eliminated from adult vocabulary. You can communicate effectively. My intentions with you are this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I think when I stopped, I thank God for Troy Brand, my dad. I love that man. He will always be my favorite. He taught me that you set the intentions you need. You know what you're going into with what you want. If you are wanting to date this person, there are certain things that comes with that title. There are certain expectations that come with that title. If the person does not meet those expectations, they don't get the title.
Mm.
Exactly. And one of my coworkers said that. She was like, I don't believe in giving titles to someone who doesn't want the ownership of the title.
I tell you that all the time.
You can't be the heavyweight champion and then you're not fighting other heavyweights, or you're one to pick and choose who you want to fight.
People get in trouble for that when they get the title. Everybody starts
exactly. They get clowned, or they eventually get stripped of the title. Right. And so that's where for me, that's where I wholeheartly believe, before you sit in somebody's face and be wasting their time, have an understanding of what it is that you want to do. Because even to the point you were speaking about value system, like you hear people talk about high value this, high value that. And when you hear people talk of high value, they're talking of money. Not one person have I heard when they speak of high value, regardless if that's men or women, not one person have I heard say the person has to be honest. They got to be respectful. They got to have morals. They got to have values. They got to have, integrity. They got to have character. Like, you never hear those things. They go straight to money.
Right.
He got, you hear people, well, what do you bring to the table? Or you got to have this much money. You got to make that much money. And it's like, but then what that tells me as a man, listening to you, regardless if that is a man or a woman saying that, is if I got enough money to pay, I can play. So that means if I'm out here robbing people and I got enough money, I can play. If I'm out here selling poison to my community, guess what? If I got enough money, I can pay. I can play. Not that if we're together and we create a child, I'm gonna be an active, consistent, part of that child's life.
Goes back into that manipulation, because the more money I have, the more I can control you.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that you are bought by money, right? And you're telling me that your value system is solely based on monetary gain, as long as I'm able to elevate you monetarily, I have control over you.
Exactly. Right. Well, it's not even control over you, but the thing is, like, when I heard this woman say, if you don't make 50, I watched this woman's, I think it was like a TikTok or something. She was telling me, if you make $50,000, you can't date her. And so I'm like, so what that tells me is you're for sale.
Yeah. Right. So
that's what it tells me. That tells me you're for sale.
You own something. If I buy something, I own it. I bought this LaCroix. I own this LaCroix. This LaCroix has nothing it can tell me or anything. The sole purpose is to satiate my thirst.
That's
it. If someone says, if you don't have X amount of dollars,
we don't sponsor LC. We don't know.
This is not. We don't
mess with them. Right.
We do mess with them now. I mess with them.
I'm talking about like on that type of sponsorship level.
On my grocery list, I do. But LaCroix, if you hear this,
she do that.
Give us. I will drink a LaCroix in every episode. Okay. But if you tell a person if you date me, you can't date me unless you make X amount of dollars. Okay, so if I do date you and I have X amount of dollars, in my head, you're going to satiate something. You're going to satisfy something that I need because, hey, I meant that for you.
Right.
When it comes to money only, people who have money, I'm just thinking about it as a business part. Just certain relationships. Like, if I pay money to have certain relationships, I'm expecting certain things. And I'm talking about like mentorship, coaching program. I am expecting to get something in return. And when I don't get that, I'm leaving. I'm dropping you. I'm done. the relationship is terminated. I already come in with that mindset. So when you put money on the table, I'm thinking I'm buying something.
Right.
I'm buying a service.
I mean,
Right.
exactly, and that's what I was about to say. It goes to, like, if you go to a restaurant, and I'm not paying for shitty customer service. No. You give me shitty customer service, I'm not. I'm out. I'll pay for what I consume, then I'm leaving.
Might not do that.
And I mean that exactly.
Because I'm
and that's where
I don't even want. I've done that. I don't want any of this. The customer service is not right. They can bring it out to me. I'm not touching it. You can take it back. I don't want it.
And I think that for a lot of us, like I said, by discussing what we're expecting and outlining and making sure that our future and the things that we're hoping to achieve in the future are aligned, I think that sets you up for if this relationship is worth taking to the next level. Because I think there are different levels to a relationship. You know, you can have some relationships where, like you said, you're just dating. You're getting to know the person. You're dating multiple people. Then you have relationships where this person, you know, because for me, I'm an introvert with extrovert tendencies. I'll talk to you if you talk to me, but in regards to hanging out with you on a regular basis, that's just not in me. You know, hanging out with a whole group of people all the time, that's just not in me. So for me to take the time to spend with you and then we're doing things together, you know, that's a stretch for me. So for me to invest that type of energy, you know, because again, my social battery is not built like the average person's. A lot of the things that I like to do, I can do them by myself. I actually prefer to do them by myself. So to take the time to want to spend with you and to be able to engage with you and learn about you with you, you know, again, that shows, you know, hey, where I'm looking to have, you know, see this relationship go. But again, like when you are having these conversations with people from the very beginning, you are outlining what you are expecting or what you are hoping to achieve. And then that person can let you know, like Unique has always talked about this, of every space isn't for everybody. Right. And when you are having these conversations with people, this person, as well as you, can determine if this space is appropriate for them, you know, because you can't, you know, going back to the analogy that we used earlier about buying cars, you can't go buy a Maserati with Honda Civic money. So if
right.
Yes, you know, I'm not saying a Honda Civic's a bad car, but you gonna go to the Maserati dealership with Honda Civic money, they're just gonna laugh in your face.
But
you're not getting anywhere.
You're just not gonna get a Maserati.
You guys.
Yeah, you just talking about
that. Been talking about all these expectations that we have to lay out for people, in order to see if they would like to meet those expectations, right? And that's good. And what were you gonna say, Unique?
It don't matter if they like to meet them or not.
Right.
It just is what it is.
These are my expectations.
If you want to be in this space here,
these are the requirements.
This is what you need to do.
These are the requirements. Yeah, I'm requiring this.
Yes.
And this is the expected outcome with that requirement.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, that's great. You just won't not do it here.
Then we won't. Look,
exactly. You won't waste my time. I won't waste yours.
But people don't do that. Remember, we had this conversation before. A lot of the stuff that we put out here is good in theory, but the problem is people don't do it. They don't really do that.
That's why people's relationships suck.
Exactly. So that's what I wanted to get to. Things don't work because people don't lay out their expectations. If you want something good, that's fine, right? But you know, good is fine for a temporary amount of time. Good is fine for a certain standard. But if you want the best, you need to outline your expectations.
Just like
yeah, go ahead.
It's not just good in theory. So what we talk about is real life stuff. Khalil, you're married, right? Look at the compare and contrast of both marriages. Not women. I'm talking about you in both of those spaces. The first one, you were moving without any type of guidance as far as what you want. What was my expectations as a husband? What was I expecting from myself as a husband? That changed from your first marriage to your second marriage. Your expectations for self were a lot different. This is how I'm going to move in this space. Well, I don't like to say higher or lower. I just think you had different expectations. You actually had an expectation.
Over time.
This is how
because you grew and you matured.
This is how I want to move in the space. And yes, you had some expectations and requirements of your wife, but you said, no, this is the type of person I want to be in this. This is how I'm showing up. And because I'm willing to show up in this manner, I'm going to need certain things. And your wife had a lot of expectations. You said, in order to be a husband for me, these are my requirements. And you said, okay,
Exactly.
that aligns with me.
And we had these conversations, and I knew
Fine,
that.
but that wasn't theoretical. That was your real life.
But I'm saying a lot of people in theory,
Rajamel,
they don't do it. Raja, go ahead.
Rajamel, please speak to the people.
So this is something that we've spoken about before in regards to Unique and what she shared about when she was getting ready to get married. What she shared was that she actually started to surround herself with people in order to teach her the things, in order for her to learn the things and how to operate in that space. Like I was just having this conversation with somebody today. Nothing that we say on this show is hypothetical. This shit that we say on here, these are things that we have actually used in our everyday lives. My dad says it best: experience is bought and paid for. You don't got to experience something firsthand to understand that something is not a good idea. If I watch you stick your hand on a hot stove and get burned, you think I'd be an idiot and stick my hand up there too? Heck no.
Don't need to do that.
I was having this conversation today where when you, as a person, you see something that you want, you have to operate like you already have it. And the reason you operate like you already have it is you do the things necessary to eventually obtain it. People talk about Kobe Bryant and the insane work ethic that he had. The reason he had the insane work ethic that he had was because, again, I want to be considered an elite NBA player. So an elite NBA player is going to move like an elite NBA player. They're going to do things that other people aren't willing to do in order to have things that other people don't have. So if I'm trying to have a fruitful, happy, healthy, and growth-driven relationship, marriage, family, I have to operate in that space. I got to surround myself with the right people. I got to only engage with people who are like-minded, because iron sharpens iron. And, people that you surround yourself with will impact your overall ability to operate in certain spaces. So if I'm with someone who has revealed themselves, because we all get lazy and the mask slips and the facade drops and who they were is no longer who they were. They go back to being who they've always been. My man Kevin Gates said it best: never stay where you're tolerated and never celebrated. So when you are in a relationship or you are talking to somebody, engaging with someone, entangled with somebody, whatever euphemism or term you want to use, if the person is not lifting you up, pushing you to be the best version of yourself, guess what? They're doing the exact opposite. They are, as Unique said, a placeholder for someone else who could be in that spot. That could be that person that you're looking for this whole time. And this is where, for me, like I was alluding to earlier, where it's different for men than it is for women. For women, if you are, looking to have children, you are looking to start a family, if you don't already have children, you have to look at the fact that you have a hard clock that you are operating against.
Freeze your eggs, ladies.
Yeah, I mean that's an option. Freeze your eggs. But at the end of the day, when you are allowing a man or individual to operate in a space that they have shown you that they are not qualified to operate in, you potentially are standing in the way of what you are supposed to have. Like for a lot of us, and I talked about this on one of the mindfulness minutes on our TikTok about self-sabotage. I see this happen to people a whole lot, not just in treatment, but outside of treatment, where people will sabotage themselves because they feel like they are not worth it. They don't believe that they're enough. They don't believe that, I deserve a good relationship. For whatever reason, they don't believe it. And so because they don't believe it, because they don't think it, they don't feel it, they operate in that space. And so you'll have a good thing going. You'll find some way to fuck it up. You'll find some way to fumble the bag, let that person slip right through your hands, block your own blessing. Or you will do things, you have self-destructive behaviors where it's kind of like professional football. God is going to throw your blessings where you're supposed to be, not where you're at. So if the play is for a 4 and in and you go 15 and in, guess what? The ball's going to where you're supposed to be, not where you at.
Well, Raj, I think a lot of times, right, in addition to that, is people, they settle just for what's comfortable for them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right.
The
The path
perfect
of least
relationship,
resistance.
the relationship that they may desire or that would be best for them is going to require
Some work.
Right? It's gonna unearth some of those insecurities. It's going to really cause them to work through those trauma spaces, to
Right.
work through some of those bruised spots. And a lot of times too, I don't know that it's always they don't feel worthy. Sometimes I'm just not ready to do that type of work. Right? So I'm gonna go with this person that's comfortable because this is the devil I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I
You
know
already know
this
the
person.
requirement for this.
Yeah, I've passed this level in the game, and so I know how to keep beating this level over and over and over. Even though I might not beat the game, I just beat the level, and so that's the space that I'm in. But if you're deciding you want to grow, then even if it's in a healthy relationship, there are going to be some uncomfortable points. I've been saying, and I don't know if this is something that we say in the field. This is just something that I say, but I tell people in relationships you have growth points, and anytime there's contention, it's called a growth point. In my marriage, as much as I love my husband and I love being married, there are some growth points that are very uncomfortable. And when they arise, I don't just say, you know what, I shouldn't be married. Nope, I acknowledge this is an uncomfortable place. This is a growth point, and we have to figure out how to grow past this. If we do not grow past it, this could be something that ruins it, because now we are growing apart. If we don't recognize that this is a growth point, that we both have to grow, then one of us will grow, or one of us will regress. If you don't grow, that's what happens. You regress. That's if you look at feet binding and everything like that. Repressed growth requires regression in order to be sustainable.
Right.
You can't say, well, I'm going to stay right here. No, you'll die. A plant that is not repotted, if you don't slim it down and you try to just keep it at the same level as that, it will die. So that's the only thing. You either regress or you grow. You can't stay the same. So when you have a growth point in your life and with a partner, you have to acknowledge it and say, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this place, but I want more. Not just for me, because I want to give you the best version of me. Hey, there's some stuff I need to work through. I'm a villain. When I'm not heard, when I am, when I feel threatened, I get into my villain space, and I understand that that's not friendly. It makes me a very prickly person to be around. So I need to do things to better communicate. Hey, my boundaries have been crossed, and it's causing me to feel like I have to be defensive towards you. Please don't do that. So now I've become assertive. I've gotten better acquainted with my boundaries, and I've gotten better at sharing,
communication.
Hey, this doesn't work for me. Right? And trying to find a solution. I probably even got better at finding a solution. Look, I understand that you might be joking, but right now this is a sensitive space. I'm not able to joke with you on that space yet. Right? Or your sarcasm is taken as offensiveness.
Yeah, I got defensive.
Right. I don't like it when you're sarcastic with me. I find it to be very jarring. Please don't do that.
Right.
So it doesn't always mean that you don't think that you're enough. Sometimes it's just developing the vocabulary to just understand where you are and recognize your growth point.
See, and that's what I want you guys to understand, that in theory, it always sounds good. What I've learned over the years of working with different patients, different clients, inpatient, outpatient, is what Unique said. A lot of times, right, people want the path of least resistance. All right, like water. They don't want, in order to grow, you're going to have to go through some things. You're going to have to work for that growth. And when we talk about relationships and actually setting standards, laying expectations, doing that communication, those are the hard things for people to do. It's easy, like you said, it's easy. If I already know what this person, I know that devil that's closest to me, right? I know what he does, or I know what she does, and you accept that for your life, then that's good. But I want the best. And when you were talking about how my transformation came from the first marriage to the second, that's something that I wanted the best for me. And I pulled my spouse up at the time we were dating, and I said, hey, this is what I want for my life. I laid it out, mapped it out. I had the foresight. I already told my wife, Kathleen, what I wanted to do. There were certain things that she was able to even kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm in the medical field too. I want to do some of those things too. We were able to align a lot of it, and our goals have aligned. But I told her I want to be the best. I don't just want to set her for a mediocre life. There's stuff that I want. And she was able to come together with me on that. But if we hadn't had that conversation, I would have never known what she wanted. All right. She would have never known what I wanted. And it was tough because there's certain things. She already had a child that lived with her. And my child doesn't live with her. We had to come together on a lot of different viewpoints. All right. But we had to have that conversation. And by our statistics here in the United States, over 53% of marriages end in divorce. And I believe it's because they don't do this before they get married. Mm-hmm. So I said, in theory, it sounds wonderful, but people don't do it. They don't want to work for this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a fallacy called the sunk cost fallacy. It's described as the tendency to follow through on an endeavor if we have already invested time, effort, or money into it, whether or not the current cost outweighs the benefit. I've said it time and time again to my clients. Time is not an indicator of success. You could be with someone for 15 years and say, I'm hanging out because I've done this for 15 years, so I gotta stay in it. And it could be the worst thing in your life. You can know somebody for 15 days and they be the best burst of fresh air you have breathed your whole life.
Right.
Time is not an indicator of success. It's just not. So because we talk about ultimatums and stuff like that, I think this is something I was dealing with with my clients. She's just like, well, I've been with the person for some time and I want them to propose to me. Does this person, well, they wanted a title. And I said, well, does this person meet your values? Right? Is this person aligned with what you want? You have to decide that. Stop waiting for them to ask a question and answer the question yourself. Does this person meet my expectations in this regard? And if the answer is no, then you are wasting your time. You keep investing time and money and energy into this, expecting a different outcome when you've already seen what the outcome is going to be. If you make a bad financial investment, right? For people who invest in like the stock market or even gamble, right? Every gambler, because I told my client this, every gambler goes in knowing how much money they want to gamble.
Yep.
And when you see, okay, my earnings are going to be less than my initial investment, either you do one or two things. You can blow it all or you pull out. No good gambler says, I'm going to keep spending, because then you just have an addiction.
Yep.
Right.
I'm going to keep spending even though it's costing me money.
Mm-hmm.
A good gambler says, I'm going to spend $100. I'm going with $100 worth of gambling money where I could lose it all, but I didn't. That's it. Yeah. If they lost $1 over, it was a bad gamble day.
Yep.
In a relationship, you have to go in saying, this is how much I'm willing to gamble. That's not always a date and time. You could say, I'm willing to gamble a week. I'm willing to gamble 3 days. I'm willing to gamble this amount of values. When they do not meet that, I don't care how green the flags are, because I'm not even talking about red flags, how green the flags may be.
Right.
The moment you spend $1 over your invested amount, it's a bad gamble.
And I
yeah, you could make $1 over, and it's still a good gamble because I was willing to lose all 100, and I only spent 99 of it.
Right.
And I think that, I agree with that. I think that for people, like you have to stand on that. I was having this conversation with one of my coworkers, where she's like, this year in 2024, and I like when she said it, I just rolled my eyes. And she was like, "Why'd you roll your eyes?" I said, "Because I hate when people say it's a new year, so I'm gonna be a new me." It shouldn't matter the year, the day, the time. You should always operate as the best version of yourself, because time is finite.
It's a new day.
You never know when it's gonna be that time. And so, like but she was saying that like this year is gonna be the year that she starts standing on business, that she starts saying no and standing on no. She said, because a lot of times her no's are soft, and the person give her the googly eyes or whatever, and the next thing you know, she melt like butter. So I mean, I agree with that. You have to recognize what you're willing to go for and what you're not willing to go for. And the things that you're not willing to go for, you stand on that. You stand on that, and you have to stand on that, because at the end of the day, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's where you get the situations of, who the fuck did I marry? And to her credit, she takes ownership for that. There were things that she recognized were horrible ideas. And she doesn't paint herself as a victim, like, oh, this person just ran game on me, whatever. She owns it. She recognized that, hey, there were certain things that she knew better, and she just blew through the intersection.
Well, Risa went along with it because of what we were just talking about, the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
She felt like she was already in too deep. I'm in it too deep now. You're never too deep.
Yep.
Right. You are never too deep to just say no.
Because your piece is priceless.
I don't care what it is. Yeah, right. I don't care what it is. You could literally be at the altar. And again, we talk about real stuff on this show.
Mm-hmm. It's real.
You can have the dress bought, the invitations purchased, the invitations sent out, the venue purchased, the cake en route, and you can still say no. Been there,
I don't know. I don't know if I'm letting it get that far. I don't know if I'm letting it get that far.
This is the thing. I was 2 months out of I was 2 months away from my wedding. Called the whole thing off. Right. I had everything. I had the dress. I had the bridesmaids' dresses. All of it. And I said, the venue, the date, all of it, done, ready. I was just making my last payments on stuff. Like when you plan a wedding, like the up until you have like some things you just have to make final payments. I just didn't make my final payments. I told them I canceled things. But yes, canceled the wedding. Right. Ironically, it was on April Fool's Day, and so I had to call people and say, yeah, the wedding's off. And they were like, you're just kidding. I was like, I'm dead serious. I'm not getting married anymore. But yeah, I realized, I said, you know what? This is not, the person had a conversation with me, and he was just like, yeah, we can get married, but I'm not going to do those things. I said, oh, so you thought that the marriage was more important, the wedding was more important than the actual life we were going to live together? That's what you thought? I'm going to help you out. We're not getting married. And he was like, what you mean? You calling it off? Yes. You just sat here and told me you don't want to do any of the things that we've been talking about building up towards.
See?
No, I'm not marrying you.
Man, he was a whole Decepticon out here.
Right.
Yeah, I said, I'm not. We don't have to get married. I said, well, we won't get married. I won't be walking down the aisle. You can do whatever you want to do. And he was just like, yo, you really just want to throw it away? And I think that's something that people are so used to, people just going along to get along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not that girl.
People settle.
I'm not going to go along because it's just convenient. Yeah, it was very uncomfortable to have to call people and tell people my wedding was off. I had lost friendships over this relationship, and it was hard. It was a trying time to come back from, but I made it.
Well, you counted the cost. Counted the cost.
I wasn't hearing that joke.
Right. And look, and so you're reaping the blessings now. Well, other people would have been like, oh, they're in this mindset. Well, oh, you took a loss. Well, now you got your blessings. Look at that.
Amen.
And I'll lose a little bit. I don't mind losing a little bit to come out, you know what I'm saying, better at the end. So it's fine. You get what I'm saying?
It's a loss, right? I told my brother, I said, some lessons are just very expensive lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Did I learn something? Did I gain something? A lesson can be the gain.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's an expensive one, and I don't mean expensive monetarily only. Some lessons are just really expensive. Some relationships are just really expensive lessons. And even if you never have another, like, well, my next relationship is my best relationship. Even if your next relationship is just like, you know what, it's not as expensive as the last one.
True.
But it's one that I can appreciate more.
Yep.
I have luxury bags in my closet. I don't always carry them. Some of those bags are way more expensive than the other ones. It doesn't cheapen the bag. To me, a bag is a bag. I own the bag because I like the bag, not because of the price of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I think relationships can be the very same. I have the relationship because I like the relationship, not because of how expensive the relationship is.
Yep. So we're going to end the episode here. This is Try Not to Overthink It signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
And I'm Khalil.
If you like what you heard, we ask that you stop by the YouTube channel and like, share, subscribe, turn your notifications on because we drop content weekly. If you would like to listen to us instead of watch us, I don't know why you would, because we are very good looking people. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, pretty much anywhere your audio files can be found. So we can be located. But this is us signing out, and we will catch you next time. Peace.